Guys, it is Jack Thorne from Los Angeles back again to do Month of Horrors, Terrors Through Time, and this is the Movie Seller. Happy to be back. We are doing again, Terrors Through Time through the decades, and I am up to the 1980s. And very happy to announce that this one is my big wild card of all the choices that I made, and I'm happy about it. It's Possession by Andrzej Zulawski, and it was made in 1981. It is it's deemed a psychological horror drama, but I disagree. I think it's a psychosexual supernatural horror drama. Because I'll be honest, this film touches a lot of areas. And it's grief horror also, a lot of grief horror, because Zulawski was actually had just gone through a very painful and nasty divorce from his ex-wife, and a lot of what went into this film and this story was acting out his feelings over his divorce, and some of it was actually lifted from real events. Not the crazy parts, but the some of the others. But anyway, it follows the relationship between an international spy played by Sam Neill, and he's wonderful in this, by the way, one of his earlier roles, and his wife Isabella Johnny, who gives us possibly the greatest, and when I see greatest, I mean biggest, most unhinged performance I've ever seen in a horror film, and it's masterful. She won her first César Award for it. She won Best Actress at Cannes, and just her performance in this is incredible. And I will get to it, but let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what Zulawski did. Was Zulawski had already been in trouble with the Polish authorities over the content of his films, and he decided to finally leave and relocate back to France. And in France, he was able to operate freely. And this film particularly was a collaboration between France and West Germany, because that's where he filmed it. Was in Berlin, I believe, right at the Berlin Wall, so in West Germany. So there's also quite a bit of political insinuation going on in this film too, but we'll get to that more later. A lot of what happens in this film is allegorical, so the more fantastical parts of this story are kind of nightmare horror and don't really make sense. So just giving you a little warning to be open to that. So there is some interpretation probably that will need to be done by you watching it. You will have to decide what certain things mean to you. But as a horror film, it is like none other I've seen. I guess the closest thing I could compare it to is Midsommar, which is arguably my favorite film. And the breakup between Danny and Christian very much echoes the breakup between our two main characters here, Mark and Anna. And with that, I'm going to start the plot. So, Possession, 1981. We have Mark, who is a spy, and he returns home to West Berlin from some espionage mission that he was on, and he meets with his employers to let them know that he is retiring and he's not going to do any more jobs. They try to get him to stay, but he's made his mind up. Now, you're not really sure who this agency is or exactly what it is he does. A lot of that is left open, so you're not really sure exactly who they are. And this is where the dreamlike quality comes into it for me, is you're not really sure what's exactly real and what isn't. So, as Dan will tell you, I love that kind of horror, that disorienting horror where it's difficult to suss out what reality is, that A24 is so good at. So anyway, so Mark comes home to his wife Anna, who lets him know immediately that she wants a divorce. She is cold towards him. He asks if it's somebody else. She says no, but he says okay, fine, and he gives her the apartment and taking care of their young son Bob. From here, Mark goes on a big drinking spree, and he goes home to the house to, whatever, he's going to confront Anna or something, and he sees that Bob is alone by himself, and he's neglected, and he's got jam all over his face, and apparently this is how he found his own son, with his own ex-wife, Zalosky. So that is something taken directly from Zalosky's life. But Mark comes home to find Bob by himself. He's angry, of course, waits for Anna to come home. They fight. She tries to explain, I didn't know I was going to be gone that long, but he's not interested, and he is no longer going to trust her with him. So then Anna takes off in the middle of the night, and Mark gets a phone call from her lover, Heinrich, telling him that Anna is with him. So I guess he doesn't worry. But the next day, Mark meets Bob's teacher at school, and wouldn't you know it, her name is Helen, and she is an exact replica of his wife, Anna. A little bit lighter hair and green eyes rather than blue, but it's the same woman. And it's Isabella Johnny, of course. And her name is Helen, and, he talks with her and stuff, and right away he likes her, and she kind of likes him, it seems. So anyway, Mark goes and visits Heinrich, and they get into a fight, and Heinrich beats him up, and then Mark, in a rage, comes home and beats on Anna, and then she takes off from the apartment again. And this happens over and over in this story. So the next morning, they have another hysterical argument, and she's cutting up meat for dinner or something, and she cuts herself in the neck with the electric knife, and so he tries to tend to her, wraps her neck up and stuff, and she's just like, she's so crazy. And just Isabella Johnny's performance is so off the chain. It's just unbelievable. But so he gets her done, and then he goes into the kitchen and proceeds to cut himself on the arm. And Helen sees him do it, and she's like, it doesn't hurt. And it's so creepy. Anyway, so after that scene, Mark meets with a private investigator and hires him to go follow Anna to find out what she's up to. And he tracks her down and finds that she is staying in this broken down apartment building, flat. And he goes in and he sees some weird black and brown and orange wet squid kind of thing with eyes. And so he is like flipped out by what he sees, and while he's focused on the monster or the thing, whatever it is, she breaks a glass and jabs it into his neck, killing the investigator. So when then somebody comes asking her, Anna, about the investigator, and he says his name is Zimmerman. He goes and finds the creature as well, and he sees his lover's dead body, and you realize that they were lovers, and Anna beats him in a rage and then steals him his gun and shoots him. And so she keeps Then it switches to this next scene where she is, and she's also a ballet teacher, and she's just, there's this one scene where she's trying to get this girl to hold the position, and she's just forcing her to go through so much pain, and then she does this weird scene where she breaks the fourth wall, almost like she's talking to this creature that she's got or whatever, and it's just such a strange scene. But so her erratic behavior keeps going on, and she actually goes through the subway, and she like just absolutely loses her mind, and just completely comes unhinged, and just right there in the subway, just screaming and flailing and jerking around like she is truly possessed. And then she goes on to have a miscarriage right there in the subway, and subway area, and whatever, and there's blood and some other fluids and whatever, and it's ungodly, and it's horrible and disgusting, and so, and she's just bleeding from her ears and her everything. It's just incredible. But then she goes back, and and obviously it was some kind of nervous breakdown, and she tells Mark about it and what happened. And then later Heinrich visits Anna at the flat, and he sees the creature in the bedroom, which is even more defined now, and it looks like it's turning into something by this point. And also he finds a bunch of body parts in her refrigerator, like Jeffrey Dahmer or something. And she attacks him, and he takes off before she kills him. So then Heinrich calls her husband, Mark, and says, "You don't understand. Anna's gone completely crazy. She's killing people. She's got body parts in her refrigerator. You have to help me." And Mark goes by Anna's apartment first and sees the body parts, because at first he doesn't believe him. But he doesn't see the creature. But so Mark goes and meets Heinrich at a bar, and he winds up just killing him and makes it look accidental in the bathroom. Just because he's in addition to Anna, Mark is also getting completely unhinged. Just not quite as acting it out as much as her. But then, sorry. So he kills Heinrich, and then he goes to Anna's apartment and sets it on fire, and takes off on Heinrich's motorcycle. And he goes back home and finds that Anna's friend Margie, who helps out with Bob sometimes, is dying right there in the elevator. She's been stabbed a bunch of times, obviously by Anna. And so so she dies right there in front of him. He drags her body inside. Anna greets him, and the two proceed to have sex in the kitchen. And afterwards, he's trying to figure out how to cover up Margie's death in the elevator. And then he stumbles upon Anna having sex with the creature in another room, and she's looking at him, and he's almost like just looking at her like transfixed, like he's watching, and she's just going, almost, it's almost done. And so then it's with excuse me. Then it switches to a phone call that Mark gets. I know, it jumps around like this. Mark gets a phone call from Heinrich's mother, and talking about him and Anna and all this that's happened, and she knows he's dead, and she just, winds up hanging up, even though they make plans, for him to go over there to see her, Mark. And when he does, she commits suicide by taking pills because her son is gone. So the next day, Mark is wandering around on the street, and his former business associates start pressuring him again to rejoin them. And he doesn't give them an answer, but he goes and he goes back to Margie's apartment, the woman that just died in the elevator, that he just tried to cover up her murder. And now the cops are there and his former employers, and everybody's all over the place. So he sets up a distraction. He sneaks away in the car, but then he's wounded when he gets shot. So then he takes off on a motorbike, and he gets into a horrible accident where his body is just almost mangled, and he can barely walk. But he runs into this building and goes up this spiral staircase, and Anna, he looks down, and Anna is following him with someone else. And he finally gives out, and she catches him, and she shows him. She's all, I wanted to show you when it was finished. And he looks and hits him. It's a perfect doppelganger of him. And so Mark tries to kill it with a gun, but before he gets a chance to, all of a sudden there's bullets shooting up from the floor, and you look and there's the police are here and his former employees are here, and they're shooting them, and Mark gets hit, Anna gets hit, and the doppelganger does not get hit, but Anna winds up taking his gun, Mark's gun, and shooting herself through the back as she lays on Mark, and that's where she dies. And then he jumps over the railing of the stairwell and falls all the way down to the bottom, and then the doppelganger takes off. So then he's dead, she's dead, and then the last scene is actually Helen, and Helen's at the apartment taking care of Bob, the little boy, and the doorbell rings, and Bob says to her, don't answer it, and she goes, why shouldn't I? And she starts to go and answer it, and he's begging her, please don't answer it, and she keeps going, and she won't turn around and she's on her way to answer the door, and he runs upstairs to the bathroom where there's water in the bottom of the tub, and he lays face down in the bottom of the tub. And I don't know if that's supposed to mean that he kills himself doing that, or if it's just symbolic or whatever, but he would rather kill himself. The point being, he'd rather kill himself than go through this whole thing over again, because it goes back down to the bottom. And as Helen is approaching the door, you see Mark's doppelganger's silhouette through the frosted glass, and you hear outside, you hear all kinds of gunfire and explosions and bombs and stuff, and so something's happened, and then Helen turns around and her eyes are like all weird and freaky looking, and that's the last shot. And so, whoa, what did I just tell you? I don't know that anyone is exactly sure. This film is such an emotional roller coaster and an insane, unhinged performance by Isabelle Adjani. It's difficult to know where the reality ends and where the nightmare begins. But this film is one hell of a ride. And Sam Neill, incredible. Isabelle Adjani, the performance she gives is, when I say transcendent, that is not an exaggeration. This film, I'm going to give the film 8 out of 10, but I'm going to give Isabelle Adjani's performance an 11. The film itself is incredibly well done, and I love that Zulawski was purging all of this inner turmoil out of him, much like Ari Aster did with Midsommar. And it works really, really well once you get sucked in. But it is disorienting and weird and freaky and bizarre, and you're not sure what's going on exactly, but you cannot deny that it has got you. So that's what I'm getting, 8 out of 10. And is it scary? I think so. You may not think so, but I love grief horror and I love allegory. So, is it freaky and bizarre, and will it get into your head? Yeah. Is it a good Halloween movie? I don't know. Maybe not Halloween, but it is definitely unsettling. And this is the type of film that sparked how A24 has done what they've done. It's films like this, and Don't Look Now by Nicholas Roeg is another one. But that's really grief horror. That's how A24 started that whole thing. Anyway, so that's it. That's my review of Possession, Isabelle Adjani and Sam Neill. Once again, this is Jack Thorne from Los Angeles for the Movie Cellar, Month of Horrors, Terrors Through Time. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you soon. Adios.